Hi, I'm Bill Pollock, Sports Director of the Missourinet, here with my Big 12 Championship game preview. Now, say what you want about the Oklahoma Sooners. They're in the Big 12 title game. I don't know if you agree with the way the Big 12 has their tiebreaker situation. They are going to look at the way they determine a three-way tiebreak. In the SEC, what they would do is they would eliminate Texas Tech because they were the lower BCS team, and then look at the other two teams and go head-to-head matchup, which, of course, Texas would have won. In this case, the Big 12 determines it off of the final BCS standings, which I still don't understand how people could vote OU ahead of Texas for the simple fact Texas beat OU. They had the same record, and here's the issue I have. When the Oklahoma Sooners lost to Texas, at that point, they were essentially 2 games down from Texas. They lost the head-to-head matchup. They had 1 loss. Texas was undefeated. That put the Oklahoma Sooners in desperation mode. And from that point on, they scored, and they put on the points, and they buried teams. Now, granted, Texas Tech was ranked number 2 in the country at the time. They made a lot of mistakes, and OU jumped on them and pounded them, and all of a sudden that brought the Sooners' value way up. But, if you look at the Sooners, they were doing this all year. They had Sam Bradford playing in the fourth quarter at a very lousy Washington Husky football team. I'm not impressed as much with the total points scored as just their player personnel. They certainly have a very good football team. The way they got to this Big 12 title game, a little questionable, but that's done with. The Missouri Tigers have to take them on for the 3rd time in 2 years. We know what happened last year in the Big 12 title game. Some things are a little bit different, and while at least at first glance this looks like an Oklahoma Sooner blowout, I wouldn't count the Missouri Tigers out yet, and here's why. First of all, let's start with Chase Kaufman. He came back. He's got a turf toe injury, caught 6 passes in the KU game. He says he's going to be at about 80%. 80% of Chase Kaufman is better than not having anything. So that's a plus. Here's the second thing. The Missouri Tigers have to come out with a quick start. And Chase Daniel has got to hold on to the football. He's got to make smart decisions. Can't give the Oklahoma Sooners a short field to work with. You saw what they did to the Red Raiders off of those turnovers. He has got to clean his game up. Now, the other issue that I'm having is that he is relying a lot on Jeremy Maclin and Chase Kaufman. He completed 25 passes in that KU game. 15 of those 25 went to Maclin and Kaufman combined. Where's Denario Alexander? Where's Tommy Saunders? Where did Jared Perry go? They've got to find a way to get Derek Washington involved, whether he runs the ball or passes the ball. And head coach Gary Pinkel said that, Oklahoma does such a great job of jumping on opponents, outscoring them 215 to 30 in the first quarter, that a lot of times they take away the running game. Got to find a way to get Derek Washington involved, whether it's running the ball or throwing to him out of the backfield. So Daniel's got to protect the football. Chase Kaufman has to play healthy and at least contribute at some point, and then one of the other 3 receivers that I mentioned, Alexander, Saunders, or Perry, have got to step up. Now, offensively for the Oklahoma Sooners, what can you say? They are a good team. Yes, they've put up 640 points on the board. I think at times they have tried to bury teams, but that aside, look at this offensive line. I've got these stats here. 4 seniors. Their left tackle, Phil Lodehart, 6'8", 337 pounds. Duke Robinson, their left guard, a senior, 6'5", 335. John Cooper, their center, 6'3", 290. Brandon Walker, the right guard, he's 6'3", 284. And 6'5", 308-pound right tackle junior, Trent Williams. They're huge, and they don't let people get to quarterback Sam Bradford. That's why he's only thrown 6 interceptions this year. That's why the team has only turned the ball over 9 times. So you have to put pressure on him. It's that simple. Castine Bridges, cornerback for the Tigers, out with a torn meniscus. So True Vaughns is probably going to get a start at cornerback. That secondary gives up big plays. They've got to put pressure on, and somehow the Tigers have got to communicate better in that defensive secondary to eliminate those receivers getting behind them and turning what should be near sacks or passes that get thrown away or checking off to a running back or a tight end. They've got to turn those into shorter gains instead of those big touchdowns, because that has killed the Missouri Tigers. It hasn't been consistent, but in crucial times, when they're putting pressure on the quarterback, they can't contain the receivers, and they're coming up with big plays. So somehow, Striker Shulock has got to get that defensive line and put some pressure on Sam Bradford. Now, here's the other thing, too, that could be interesting in this game. Sam Bradford has a torn ligament in his non-throwing hand. I talked with Chase Daniel on Monday. He said that as a quarterback, that really will be a non-issue. I also talked with the defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. He says anybody that handles the ball as much as a quarterback and they got a problem with their hand or a finger, whether it's on their throwing or non-throwing hand, it's going to be an issue. Now, how much of an issue, we don't know. So if the Tigers can put some pressure on him, bang him up a little bit, maybe Bradford starts thinking about that hand a little bit more, you take him out of his comfort zone, could make it a little more difficult for him to move the football. So, yes, there are ways that the Missouri Tigers can win. One, they have to get off to a quick start. Eliminate turnovers from Chase Daniel. He has got to play much smarter. He's got to play like the Heisman Trophy candidate he was a year ago, more than the somewhat ordinary Big 12 quarterback that he's come to be here in the last few games. Yes, he brings them down, gives them opportunities to score, but he also makes a lot of mistakes that he wasn't doing early this year or last year. Here's the other thing they have to do. Take advantage of the injuries on that Oklahoma defense. Austin Box is a linebacker who's going to miss this game. He was 6th on the team in tackles. Austin English, a defensive end who put tons of pressure on Chase Daniel in last year's Big 12 championship game, he's out of there as well. So this could turn into a shootout if Missouri takes care of the football. Well, we'll see what happens. Don't count them out. I will say one thing now. If Missouri wins, they go to a BCS bowl game. If they lose, the announcement will come down 6 o'clock on Sunday. They are probably headed to the Alamo Bowl December 28th. It's already been announced, although it's not official, that the Nebraska Cornhuskers will play in the Gator Bowl on New Year's Day. And now I also found out that the Kansas Jayhawks probably going to play in the Inside Bowl. So I know the Alamo Bowl was very high on getting the Tigers back down in San Antonio. And should they lose on Saturday in the Big 12 final, that's where they'll be headed. I'm Bill Pollock. Thanks a lot for listening.